This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Please check out Natural Care Midwifery, our podcast page, for our full disclaimer. Well, welcome back to More About Birth. We are here with another episode, and I'm here with Shannon Bennett, the host, and she has a very special guest today. This is going to be a very interesting topic. So, Shannon, introduce your guest and what we're going to talk about today.
We have Aggie Mowry with us today. She is the co-facilitator of a pregnancy loss support group, and she actually does education in the community and to hospital staff. She has been an OB nurse for 39 plus years.
Wow.
Traveled around the world doing all kinds of interesting work and has a background in midwifery in other countries. And you can tell us a little bit about that.
I was trained as a midwife in London.
That's so cool.
Yep. And then worked on a medical mission in India for a year following that. And then I also worked and did some home births in the Netherlands, which is where I grew up. My mom is from England and my dad is from the Netherlands.
Were you born at home?
No. I was born in a hospital.
In the Netherlands.
Well, it gets more interesting. I was born in Venezuela.
You have been around.
I don't want to go there, but yes, in Venezuela.
Wow. You have been everywhere.
And that's just because my dad worked for Shell for 5 years. And,
so they
I
sent
was
him all
born
over?
there. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't remember Venezuela. I left when I was 10 months, so I could cry in Spanish. That's it.
Cry in Spanish. I've heard it all now.
Well, the thing that we're really excited about today to talk to Aggie about is pregnancy loss and her role in that. Just telling us a little bit about how the local support groups work and who's involved in them, kind of what they look like. So can you just tell us a little bit about the group?
Yeah, for sure. So the group is through Chaplaincy Healthcare, and that is an independent nonprofit organization that has many arms of work.
Yes, I've heard of it in many different areas.
Yeah, people will know hospice house
Right.
and hospice care, and that's what they're probably most known for. But they also do grief care and have support groups for widow support group. Survivors of suicide, and now since almost 2 years, our Gone Too Soon pregnancy loss support group.
That's awesome. It's very needed.
Yeah. I was involved doing that through Catholic used to do a support group through their Our Little Lambs program, and I used to work there. Now I work at Trios,
Right.
and the beautiful thing of this support group, and it is the only one in the region actually, is that it serves both hospitals and beyond.
Yes. So anyone in any community. So someone could come from Yakima, from Walla Walla, from Hermiston.
Yep, and
It's
that
open
is
to
actually
anyone.
happening. We had a
Right.
support group a few months ago, and there was nobody from the Tri-Cities.
Really?
Wow.
We have participants from Grandview, Sunnyside.
That is great.
Yakima. It was
That's great.
Yeah.
So how far out then are you reaching then? So that,
As far as word
50,
will
60 miles then.
travel, I would say the furthest has been Walla Walla.
Okay.
Well, Walla Walla, Yakima is about the same,
Yeah,
right? It's about an
yeah.
hour's drive.
Hour 15.
Yeah. But it shows you how great the need is,
Wow,
really.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, so the purpose of this group, is it to gather together and be able to share your grief? Is it an educational time? What kind of happens there?
No, and that's such a good question, because I think it intimidates participants and people that want to come. They're not sure, is it a therapy group? Because,
Right. What's going to happen when I get
yep.
there? Am I going to be put on the spot?
Yep. So
Well, that's true about every group like that, I
Well,
think.
true.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. No, very, very true. So we always say up front, this is not a therapy group. This is your group. And we'll say that at the beginning of each group. It really is families sharing their stories of loss. And you can come for the first time, and the size of the groups is typically 4 at a minimum and maybe 15 at a max. So we're an average
so
of
nice,
10.
intimate.
And it's on a drop-in basis, so you don't have to pre-register. You can skip. You know, a lot of families already have 1 or 2 children at home when they lose a baby. And So there's unpredictable factors. You can't
child care or illness.
Yeah.
So there's no real commitment to you have to be there at so many meetings, or you have to let them know you're coming.
No.
Just
show up. We will send out text messages. I personally will, and reminders.
Yeah.
So that they know, oh, that's right. It's support group. It's the second Thursday of each month.
Okay, and we'll put this at the bottom of the screen so that you have this information.
Yeah. So it's just once a month, drop-in group, no cost, no pre-registration required. And we have mamas that come monthly for a year and then maybe skip a few months and then come back. We have families that come just once and not, again, that was helpful and then they don't come back.
Where do you meet at?
We meet at the chaplaincy building.
In Kennewick?
Which is, well, it's technically in Richland. It's across the mall, that Spalding Business Center, where...
I'm sure I know where that is.
You know the Reach Museum by the river?
Yes.
It's that whole, there's...
so kind of over by the Costless Carpet in that area?
Yes.
And the Tri-City Bible Bookstore?
Yep.
Okay.
That business
the
center.
hidden side of the highway.
Yeah.
Across the ramp from Columbia Center.
When you go to the mall, go to the other side of the freeway.
Toward the old Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
All the parents
will know where that is. So it's pretty accessible, whether you're in Pasco, Richland, Kennewick, or Walla Walla, Grandview. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When we were talking yesterday, we talked a little bit about who can come to these groups, and you mentioned that not only people who have had a loss recently, but people who are pregnant again.
Oh, yes.
And walking through that and trying to get through that with the fear and the anxiety they might have about that.
Yes. The more we do these groups, the more we find out that is a huge area of need, just the anxiety.
And then not just mamas, but daddies and grandmas and...
dads or support partners that have such an important role of protecting the pregnant mama from hurt and pain and grief. And then when they're in that situation of a loss, that is really traumatic. And then when you get pregnant again and the fear of that happening again is devastating. Yeah.
And what about birth workers like myself or nurses on the OB floors? Are they welcome to come also to the support group?
They would be. That actually hasn't happened, but so you're allowed to bring support people, and typically someone will only bring one person. And it is not unusual for a husband to say, that's not my thing, I'm not going. And she'll just bring her friend or her mom. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
And I know you might remember about 2 years ago that I had a mama with twins that had a loss with one of the twins.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a great story. It's sad, but I was talking to her the other day, and she said that she learned so much through that experience, and she has so much compassion for other people going through it now. And it's such a joy to look at her daughter and know that they came through that, and they're on the other end. So someone like that would still be good to come to the group as an encouragement to others.
We love it when moms come that have had a loss that is further out. Because of that very thing. Well, number one, because they never stop grieving.
Right.
No, we just had her birthday mark, and it was rough. It was a rough day.
Yeah. And I've heard a mom say, when I'm 85, I will still be mad at her birthday. Why isn't she here? And that was 10 years out.
Yeah.
That particular mom had lost her baby, Kate, 10 years ago. And so it is, it's good for the mom herself, but it's also so meaningful for other moms to say, she survived.
Yeah, to see that somebody else that's gone through it, they're okay. They came out on the other end and they learned some things or they found some blessings along the way.
Yeah.
You mentioned too when we were talking yesterday about just comments that people can make about, well, I was only 5 weeks when I miscarried. That doesn't compare at all to having a stillbirth or a baby that dies of SIDS. And you said something very profound when we were visiting about a conversation that you overheard or that you were a part of with two moms talking. Do you remember that?
I do. It was actually said in a support group setting. It was when our little lambs was still going on a Catholic. So it was a few years ago, but it was so profound, where there was a mama who'd had a 6-week miscarriage sitting across from a mama who had a full-term stillbirth. And that mom said to the mom who'd had the stillbirth, I cannot imagine carrying your baby through the entire pregnancy and then delivering your stillborn baby. And the mom who'd had the stillbirth looked at the mom who'd had the early miscarriage and said, but you never got to see your baby. You never got to hold your baby. And we were just all in awe.
That's amazing.
Because you just don't know and don't think about that. And we have come up with a mantra in our support group. There is no hierarchy. It all sucks.
Right.
Forgive me for the language, but it all sucks. It just does.
Yeah.
Whether your loss was early,
your pain is
or
pain
later,
that counts, right? So there's no just 5 weeks.
No,
or
there is no
just 6 months.
No.
Okay. You mentioned a Facebook group. You want to tell the audience about the Facebook group?
Yep. We have an online presence, and it's a closed Facebook group, which I think is important because you want to have some sense of privacy. All the families that go through this will have stories of what people, loved ones, have said, well meant, like
that are hurtful.
At least you're still young.
Yeah.
You could have another one. And things that are well meant that we say as outsiders because we don't want them to feel bad. So we're thinking of things that might make them not feel bad. But
or you barely knew you were pregnant when you had a loss.
Yeah, at least you haven't bonded with your baby.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about just a little bit about what you do say, maybe in the second half, because that's amazing to me that you want to be there and you want to say something, but you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And before we do go into the second half, how do we get a hold of you? What's the contact process for getting more information about the group? Do we go to the chaplaincy website?
That is always a good way to go. The chaplaincy website, they have a central phone number where all incoming calls are people will
and they
be
can send you in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. But my personal cell phone is on all the flyers and all over the internet.
Okay, to put that at the bottom of the screen.
It totally is.
There you have it. Her phone's out there.
Yes.
Busy lady.
Yeah.
Busy lady.
It's fine. I find people don't abuse that, and texting is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is definitely a good way to connect.
Well, I think we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back and let's talk about what are some things you can say to someone who's had a loss, and just kind of what it looks like at the hospital when there is a loss, like what the nurses can do to kind of help you through that, and what it looks like once you go home for support. So we'll be back in a minute.
Well, that's the first half of today's podcast. We are going to be right back after the break with some great questions of how to respond to people that are going through a loss. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Please check out Natural Care Midwifery, our podcast page, for our full disclaimer. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Please check out Natural Care Midwifery, our podcast page, for our full disclaimer. Well, welcome back for the break. We are really excited to continue this conversation about dealing with grief and answer that question. What do you say? So, Shannon?
I've actually been through a couple of losses personally, and I remember some really dumb things that people said. Yeah. Like, well, you just found out you're pregnant. Yeah.
I didn't know what
to say.
I didn't know what to say when you got the phone call about our miscarriage, and I still can remember where I was standing at the store I was working at, and
I know.
and what do I do? And so I got in the car and I went home, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how I felt. So I can only imagine what people are going through.
Yeah. And that's actually quite common for people to feel just that way. You don't know what to say, and they end up not saying anything at all. And that is part of the isolation part of having or experiencing pregnancy loss.
So what would be something beneficial to say? What have parents told you was helpful to them?
Yeah. Actually, the best thing I can tell you, as shared with me from parents, is to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And if it's someone who's had a stillbirth, an older baby, a loss, even a SIDS baby, you can say, what was your baby's name? And that's one thing I have learned from doing the support group is people love hearing their baby's name. People don't mention the baby's name. They don't get to talk about their baby. So
like they were a real person.
Yeah, ask.
Well,
ask
so
about the
is
baby's
it true
name.
that because I mean, my mom is a loss, right? And I knew her. We had a relationship, and I have all these memories.
Yeah.
With a baby, obviously, during the pregnancy, whenever the loss is there a difference between how people cope because they don't have those memories and the family doesn't have their memories? Does that influence them ability to say anything?
Yeah, I'm really glad you bring that up, because what we have learned from the research and just what we know is that when you grieve, what helps you heal is to tell the story.
Right.
And so when mom, dad, grandma, grandpa dies, there are so many stories.
Right.
And you can say, oh, tell me about your grandpa. Were you close to him? And then the stories can come. But when you lose a baby, there is not much. And that leads into what we'll talk about, I'm sure, in just a moment.
Yeah.
Creating keepsakes that are tools for grieving.
Right.
But having named the baby, and I understand with early miscarriages that is not often the case, but still some parents do, even early miscarriages will name it the baby, even though they don't know if it's a boy or a girl. They think of a name that is not gender specific, but to have a name at least is something to talk about and to share.
And I suppose, you could ask people about their memories of their pregnancy. Like, was your baby pretty active, or, was your baby quiet in the evening? And
did you make any special trips during your pregnancy? That
was there something special that you remember that you craved when you were pregnant? Just something to help them understand that it's real to you also.
And just not too long ago, a dad shared, that just triggers that memory. He shared a story. He said, I always dreamed that with my daughter, I would go to the gas station and buy the largest pop because I know my wife doesn't like pop. And
sounds like my dad.
that was so touching to me. And he lost his baby at 37 weeks. They had a trisomy 18 baby. But that was a dream he had, and it was so touching for him to share that.
Right. What do you call these gatherings?
A support group.
Okay, support group.
Yeah.
So going to a support group and having someone with me, for me, would be paramountly important. And I don't know that they need to say anything.
Moral support.
Yep. There's plenty of families that come for the first time and just don't. Just
sit and listen.
enjoy or just
partake.
Listening to other parents' stories and
that
thinking,
can be healing for
and
you.
having that exact feeling, wow, I am not alone.
Right.
Because so many people feel so awkward asking them or not knowing what to say and then not saying anything at all. They do live in that isolation.
One thing I love about this generation of moms that I'm working with and families is that they seem to be a lot more open about talking about things. When I had pregnancy losses, it wasn't really talked about a lot. It just was kind of almost swept under the carpet. And and even I remember when my teenage boys discovered that I had had a couple of miscarriages, it kind of broke my heart because I never thought of it affecting them. So I just didn't mention it. But when they found out, they teared up and they were like, you mean we would have had another brother, another sister? And
wow.
I thought, wow, this
Yeah.
doesn't just affect me or my husband. This truly affects the whole family.
And I think they have to process too. And I think when you're going through grief, you don't necessarily think about how other people, you're just thinking about the emotions that you're dealing with. And that's another part of that process. I'm sure there's close family members like, moms and dads that would like to, of the pregnant couple, want to go maybe talk about it as well because they were.
Yeah, if you open up, they may open up. And then children, do you have a lot of resources for families, for their children to help them walk through the grief?
I'm glad you asked because, that is so important. And a lot of families really don't know. If they have children at home, that may be the thing that most occupies their mind. How am I going to tell the children at home? Catholic has a child life specialist that is amazing. That is someone who is specialized in helping children at whatever stage of development or what age they are. But we have brochures talking to children about grief. Chaplaincy Healthcare also has a child grief program called Quirk's Place, which is amazing.
You can find that on the website also.
Yes, and they can call the Chaplaincy Healthcare phone number and ask about Quirk's Place, and they'll be redirected.
Good to know.
So, but we do, and both hospitals will acknowledge the need of helping parents with their the other siblings. We have a tub with little stuffed animals that, if they do bring the siblings in, which some parents
And is that
do,
something that you have here on the table
yeah,
today?
I do. Like this little monkey, for instance, is an example of something we can offer to siblings. And like I said, some parents bring them in. They have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a teenager. And some don't. Some say no, that we choose not to. And there's no right or wrong. Whatever feels right for your family,
And just to
that.
interject here real quick, I have had clients who had a loss, even, farther into pregnancy, and chose just to make it very minimal as far as they want to go in and birth their baby and then just not do anything afterwards as far as any kind of a grieving ceremony or any support. They just want to pretend it didn't happen. And, people should be able to choose how they want to do things. Although personally, I feel like you need to deal with this stuff. So the hospitals sometimes will take pictures and things of these babies. And are those archived in a client's chart so that if someday they say, man, I wish I really would have seen a picture of this baby, or I wish I had a picture or a keepsake, is that something that you have?
They do. There is, as far as I know, both hospitals still, there is a shared private drive where they save pictures that are taken with the camera that the hospital has to take pictures of these.
So if someone decided a few years down the road that they just couldn't move past this and they felt like that would be healing, they could contact the hospital.
They could
get a hold of a picture.
They could. It has actually happened. One time when I was working at Catholic, a family came to me because they had a house fire and all the pictures were gone.
Wow.
And we were able to reproduce those because we still had them.
So maybe it's just me, but I'm still waiting to talk about the monkey.
The monkey. The monkey.
It's the kid. It's the kid in me. So.
I keep getting sidetracked.
I love that. I love that. The meaning that these silly monkeys or whatever we give out. So one thing we do is if they do choose to have the kids there, give them choices because they have their mom. The baby has died, and that is out of their control, and so they already feel their world is falling apart. So a small thing we can do as a staff is offer them a box with a variety of toys that they can pick. They can choose one. And
something to have control over.
Something to have control over.
Yeah.
It's the little things. And so we can have monkeys, bears, bunnies, whatever. And then they can pick. And you never know. I've learned that as well. If you think, oh, I bet she'll pick that, she won't.
Now, who supplies these?
Volunteers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get involved, I bet you could contact Aggie and you could
Yes, please do.
That's cool,
be a
man.
part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a kid, on that day, what that little stuffed animal could mean to them?
Yeah, and we call it in grief work, we call that linking objects.
Yeah.
And so that 3-year-old will link that to that day. And I hear stories from parents that little monkey, in this case, will go everywhere with them because it
Aw.
reminds them of that day. And they may
So
not even
sweet.
understand,
Makes
but
me
it's
teary.
yeah.
It's amazing. All the other stuffed animals are for the same, they could choose these other ones that are out there too. Those are examples.
The ones that are sitting here.
Yeah.
Actually, they're for different reasons. So this is a rainbow plush baby, and you were
Yeah, I had asked you yesterday about this new term, rainbow babies. That was
Yep.
not something that was a thing when I had loss.
and it's the word, as far as I understand, it came from the pregnancy loss community itself. They came up with that term, and a rainbow points out that there was a storm. But then at the end of the storm, there is a rainbow. It's a symbol of hope
Yeah,
after the storm.
promise.
It's a beautiful picture, an image. And so parents will talk about their rainbow baby.
Right.
And so we have some of these at the hospital or even in our group, that if they have a rainbow baby, then this is a toy that we give out to
It looks like a little rainbow Snoopy.
well, you acknowledge that there was a loss,
Yes.
that there is that other sibling that they'll never get to meet in person.
Yeah.
So
Well-
rainbow plush, and then this one is a little bear that both hospitals and many hospitals will give you a keepsake bear, and this is at Trios. We have fundraised among staff, so and then we got these, and bear symbolizes baby, and that becomes it also is a reference for size, because when the loss is around 20 weeks,
Right.
the baby is about this
Wow.
this size. And so when we take pictures with the baby and the bear, they can say later the baby was about this size, or was
Yeah.
twice this size, or half this size.
Yeah.
It's a size reference.
That's a cute little bear.
Yeah.
And I know I've had people say, well, when I go in, how do I know they're not going to walk in and ask me, so what's your baby's name? Let's put it up on the whiteboard. So you have things in place to warn the staff, right? That we have someone
and
grieving.
they do this at both local hospitals or regional hospitals. This is a leaf, and it is there is a national program that's called Bereavement Services, Resolved Through Sharing. It has 2 names, that many hospitals use their materials to support families.
So this is not
pregnancy
just
loss.
a Cadillac or just a Trios thing.
No, this
Okay.
is a national thing. It's the gold standard. When JACO, our big organization that checks on us, if they see that we work with this organization, they mark off, okay, they do good care for families that
Great.
are experiencing pregnancy loss. And this card goes by the doorpost.
Right.
And that way, if we do a good job educating our auxiliary staff, like environmental services, nutrition
Lab,
services, lab, yes, that they know there's a loss in this room, so they don't come in and try to make small talk like you
That's
said.
awesome.
Right.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Uh-huh.
Or- yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
'cause that would be
important.
painful.
The leaf. And
So after these little tiny babies are born, or we've had a stillbirth, what happens after that? I mean, with a fresh newborn baby, mama gets to hold the baby, daddy gets to be with the baby over at the warmer, things are happening. So how does that look
Yeah.
after a loss?
Actually, much of the same. We really encourage families to hold the baby, and we will offer to help make keepsakes for that baby.
And you've brought some
Yeah, I
with you.
brought
We can
some.
hold those up.
Like we have clay.
Well, maybe I can reach them for you.
Simple. This is a really simple one. It's Model Magic, and we have both hospitals have this. Daddy's thumb, mommy's thumb, and the little baby's thumb, and it becomes a little keepsake that they can use as an ornament, or just even, there's families that will, once they're home, they create a little corner of the house.
I've seen shadow boxes
Yes,
or like a treasure
that.
box that the
Yeah.
kids can look in.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because they have this need to honor that baby, to acknowledge the fact that it happened, that there was a baby. So that's one that we do. This one with the tiny little footprints, and then we have cookie cutters that we can use the heart shape. That's kind of
So tiny.
And then there's moms out in the community that make little flannel diapers.
Oh.
And because there are no diapers for babies that are born at 20 weeks. And so they make them in sets of 2, and both hospitals have those. It's called Tiny Tears, and the organization that make them. And it's mostly moms that have experienced a loss that will make these. They get together.
So
share
one goes on
stories,
baby and one is a
goes on baby,
keepsake?
and one goes in the keepsake box.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is this the keepsake box?
That is an
here?
example of a keepsake box. Yeah. It
So
can
do you have
be-
volunteers that paint these also?
Yes, we do.
Sounds like you could
Volunteers.
use a lot of volunteers.
There's
in the organization.
always yes.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
seamstresses.
What a great thing for someone that doesn't know how they can contribute to get involved in.
For
Or if
sure.
you've had a loss and you just feel the need to be there for someone else, what a way to do it.
I'm just thinking of grandma that's sitting there wondering, what she could knit for someone. That would be just so cool to make something
Yeah,
like
you've got
that.
a little teeny baby blanket here.
Yes. Crochet and knitting.
Oh.
And I tell you what actually is a huge need is seamstresses. This little gown is made out of a donated wedding gown.
Wow.
Oh,
And,
wow.
It's like a little angel costume.
It's an angel costume. And that idea that doesn't come from here, that somebody out in the nation started that program, and it has spread
Wow.
where
That
people
is
will donate
beautiful.
wedding gowns. I currently have a few, and I don't have a seamstress to.
Is this someone local?
Yes.
That's amazing.
These-
So
I
you're
might
looking
know
for
of a couple
someone that
people
could do
that
the
would do that
seamstress
for
work.
you.
that has a machine that will work with the material. If that's
Right.
partly the problem, I've been told, not a
Takes a-
seamstress myself. It takes someone who has a good machine that can work with that kind of
Right.
material. But it is so meaningful for a family that we can offer them a variety of little gowns for their baby that they
That's
can
awesome.
Yes.
the baby
and they
in.
make them in all different sizes.
all different sizes, from just the size of the little bear
Oh, that's
to,
so sweet.
to full term. And
Got a
this
shell
this
there.
will fit on a baby that is maybe 18, 19 weeks. And
I'm
to
assuming you have those in many sizes also.
we do have
Wow.
those in many sizes. And you get to take all of those home.
Oh,
And
how
we have
special.
doubles of everything, that if you would like the baby to wear one, then and keep that with the baby, and then you can have another one in that size in your keepsake box.
Wow. And this was really fun. You
Oh yeah.
told me about this.
Yep. So this is called a remembering heart. It's from a company called Grief Watch, and it's a little heart inside a big heart. And the idea is for the baby to be either buried or cremated with the little heart, and then for the mom or other family member to keep the bigger one. And the symbolism is that they are forever connected.
Yeah.
So
that's
and
really neat.
I've had parents in the support group that will show me, here's my heart, and then they know at the other
Yes.
part is with baby, and it's so
Wow,
meaningful.
so much.
yeah.
So I would encourage you, if you're feeling like you want to get involved in helping this program, or if you're a family with a loss, that you would give Aggie a call, go to the chaplaincy webpage, and be a part of this.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Such a serious
my honor.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I fought tears back before in a podcast
I know.
before more about
I feel
birth,
all
but
teary.
yeah, but that's a great podcast.
And you know,
great thing to be a
pregnancy
part of.
loss is as common as 1 in 4 families
So common.
experience pregnancy loss. So it is.
I would say 2/3 of the moms that come through my office have had at least, one loss.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Aggie, so much for sharing and helping us process what's available for families that have had loss. Thank you, Shannon, for just taking the leap to have her on the podcast and dedicating one day to grief recovery, fighting back
Better
your
hurry up and get
tears.
this over with.
But yeah, so that is another episode of More About Birth. We're going to go get our Kleenexes and we're going
I think we
to
have
say our
some right
goodbye.
here.
So
Yes.
thank you
Our
so much.
tears make us stronger.
Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in today.
Ah.
Join us again for another podcast. It's available on audio as well as video on YouTube. And we just want to thank our guests today. So we'll see you here next time on More About Birth. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Please check out Natural Care Midwifery, our podcast page, for our full disclaimer.